In this lecture, we'll take a look at how we can pass parameters to controller action methods. There are a couple of ways. First one being the query string or HTTP get verb, and the other one is whenever we post some form data, and that includes both get as well as post verbs. But usually whenever we submit data using forms, we make use of the HTTP post verb. Now here in this example, we'll be exploring the get verb. In order to pass parameters using the get verb, let me create a copy of this method over here, and let me call it as courses. And remember, if I have to pass some parameters, I can do that in the parentheses. So here let me pass ID. Now why I'm typing ID over here? Because this name that we have given to the parameter should be same to the route if we are making use of the HTTP get verb. So here when you say ID and it matches the ID over here, it will be automatically mapping it, and that is something which we call as model binding in ASP NetMVC. And not only it does map the parameter name, it also ensures the data type of the variable. So here we can just go ahead and copy this ID, and let me append it over here, ID. Now if I run this one and make use of the courses action, let me run this. So here if I go to home/courses and let's type 123, now here you'll notice the ID is coming as 123. Now there's one more way of accessing or achieving the same thing, that is specifying it as a query string parameter. So question mark ID equals 123. That also yields the same result. Now I can go and pass some string data as well, and that will also be reflected over here. This is because the parameter data type is of type string. Now if I go ahead and stop this application for now and change this data type from string to integer and then rerun this and access the same method courses with 123. Now here you'll notice 123 is coming up, but if I go ahead and change it to XYZ, the output will be 0 because XYZ is not an integer. And that's what I was trying to convey when I said that it does model binding. Not only the name of the parameter is mapped, but also its data type. So here you can see ID, now that it is defined as type integer, that's the reason why XYZ is being treated as non-integer and the value 0 is being shown because that's the default value for integer. Now let me stop this and ensure that if there is no value passed, that is when this ID parameter is null, in that case it should print a different message. So here I'll say ID equal to null, and else this, let me copy and paste it over here. I'll remove the ID from here, and you'll notice that I'm making use of a nullable attribute over here. So now my data type is of nullable type. So if I'm not passing any value, or if the value being passed is not an integer, in that case the ID will be null, and in that case you'll be able to print a different message as an output. And if it will be a valid ID, then obviously you'll get the result over here. Now let's run this. So now I'm passing 1 to 3, you're getting over here 1 to 3. But now if I say XYZ, you'll notice it's just printing ASP.NET Core MVC course. The ID portion is totally excluded because the type of the data that we are now providing is not an integer, and that's the reason why this is coming as null. Let me put a breakpoint over here and rerun this. There you go. You can see that the ID is null, and that's the reason why this line is being executed. And there we go. Now let me stop this. And there's one more way of handling this null thing, and that is by defining a default value for the parameter. So in that case, you don't have to run this, and this will take care of it. Now let's run this. Now that you're passing a value 1 to 3, which is of type integer, then the result is coming as 1 to 3. But if I go here and say XYZ again, you'll notice the default value kicks in now and is being shown over here. So this is how you can pass parameters to controller action methods in ASP.NET MVC.